Hello and welcome back to Saber Outdoors. My name, of course, is Mark Alexander, your wonderful host. And guys, today you were not lied to in those previews, in the title, in the thumbnail. We are testing 8 different jig trailers. This bag is full of them. We're gonna test 8 different jig trailers just to see what they look like under the water. Because guys, I don't know whether I like this or that until I actually see it used, until I actually experience it. Guys, the whole birth of this video is basically, what would that look like on the back of a jig? And guys, the jig that we are using is, of course, a PoorBoy's jigs. Guys, this one is in mantis, which is one of my favorite colors. I personally like this color. I have a little bit of red for eyes, mostly green June bug with a little bit of pumpkin flare on that. Guys, I don't know exactly how to explain it. That's just the best way I know how. But guys, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna take each of these trailers. I am going to do 3 different retrieves for each one. I'm going to hop them. I'm going to just drag them across. And then I'm going to do just the smallest amount of wiggle that I can get away with. Like, I may be just sitting here with the rod, just doing one of these deals just to get me a little bit of motion, because cold water is supposed to make plastic not as vibrant as it is whenever it is in warm water. And that makes sense. Warm water, everything moves a little better. Cold water, even I, in my little old shower, when I feel that cold water, I'm like, oh God, don't hurt me, please. But guys, what we're gonna do, we're gonna get our trailer on the back. We're gonna get this camera in the water. Now guys, I'm gonna voice over what's going on because I don't have 2 cameras like I used to, so gonna have to do this video a little different than we did in the old days. I'm gonna put you in the water, and then I will start talking about what's happening on the screen. Uno momento, and while we do those. Guys, the water's 53 for anyone that cares, but here you all go, down to the depths-ish. All right, guys, so it's future me. As we're getting down into the depths, we're getting all settled. It's a little bit silty. I just want to tell you that all the trailers we're using today are Zoom trailers, and we're going to start off with the Zoom Chunk. Guys, the Zoom, they call it the Super Chunk. All the lures are watermelon seed, not watermelon red, watermelon seed. But guys, when you see this thing, I'm jumping it. You know, the back 2 legs kind of are a little lazy in making the jump with me. They're not very, the plastic's not very stiff, not very sturdy, rigid. Maybe rigid's the word I should be using. But guys, you can see whenever I do the big jump, it follows with it. But these do not have real big shelves on them to move water, so they don't have that really big flappy action. But I do like the action. As you can see in the film right now, in the footage, you can see I'm just hopping it along real slow like, but you can plainly see the legs are kind of like this, which is just fine for winter time, for cold water. But for warm water, probably not my choice, but cold water, very good choice for sure. But guys, this is the big hops, and watch the legs as they go. You can plainly see it follows it up, follows it straight back down, no waving at all in this particular chunk. But guys, tell me down in the description, what do you think when you watch this? What do you think of the PoorBoy jigs the PoorBoy jig as it's coming through? You know, I do this twice for everyone so that everyone has a good chance to see what it's doing. Again, you can see on the drag, not really doing a lot, but I believe we're about to come up to where we're doing our little hops. And you can see the legs are following the hop a little bit, but if it's a lazy hop, they just stay like this. But guys, good wintertime trailer for a jig. Does the job real good. We're going to move on to the speed craw now. Now that's this right here. You can see it has these appendages, but as we're using it in the clip, you can plainly see those appendages are not visible whatsoever. But these claws, where they have this design here, you can see whenever I'm doing the hops that there is a little bit of flap to it. Now I believe I'm dragging it right here. So you can see no action, but my bait is up. It's up and it looks defensive on that football head jig. But guys, I really did think this would be more expressive than it is. Because I've used these speed craws on their own before, and bass like them. You can see on these little hops, though. Let's see if there's any movement at all on them legs. A very little amount, but it would be good in this kind of weather for those little hops, and it would probably be more expressive in warm water because cold water, like I said before, will cause this plastic to stiffen up. Now, it's rigid enough, though, that it stands straight up whenever I'm doing like what I'm doing right now, which is the big flops. And you can see there's a little bit of kick whenever I'm doing it that way. But let's see the drag. I believe the drag is next. Come on, drag. Come on, come on, come on. You know you got it. Right there it is. I'm dragging a leaf along with me. But guys, you can plainly see no motion in these claws at all, but they're up. They're up like this, ready to look defensive, to look like I'm, that it's a worried not bait fish. It's a worried prey animal for a bass. But look at these little small tiny hops. These are probably my favorite things to do with a jig. You can see that plastic looks like $1 million. This is a good all-around jig trailer, but we're going to move on to the Z-Craw. Now, the Z-Craw is probably our longest thing, and you can plainly see in that footage that it has lots of movement, lots and lots of movement. That's because these shelves on these, and I don't know if the correct term is shelf, but you can see there's lots of that, so there's lots of action when I do that big hopping motion. And even when I've got this here, my jig is the same jig for all of them. You can see like this much of my trailer sticking out beyond my jig. This could be a candidate for something that somebody might just go and bite off some of it. Look at these nice little hops. Now the plastic is rigid enough that when I put it there, it stands straight up. Not like the chunk, or definitely not like the chunk where the chunk would lay down. This stands straight up on its own. It has rigidity enough to do that. But look, we got another big hops. And look at those tails. Look at them, getting it done on the way up and down. This would be a better summertime deal, like the end of spring to the beginning of fall, because everything's going to have more motion in hot water. They will have less motion in cold water. Not saying that this won't catch fish year round. Anything will year round if you try hard enough. But you can see on that drag, not really much motion, just kind of comes through there. And I believe we've got another run of hops coming through. Little hops. Watch them tails. Them tails will still have a little bit of movement to them, and it stands almost straight up. The tails kind of flop down, but not too bad. Now, moving on to the double tail grub. Now, guys, this is the winter time full wheel drive, guys. This is what you use if you want some motion during the winter, because you can see this is 50-degree water-ish, and you can see lots of motion on that big jump. But you can see the plastic's very thin, but that curly tailness, it gives it that motion. By the way, you see where that water's changing colors? That is something that you might want to take into account whenever you're fishing, that the sun is a big detail in how much visibility and also how active your fish are. You can see even with that little stop at the end, they just sit up there and they're ready, waiting for something to come on them. And whenever they do, the bass will think, oh, it's in a defensive position, chunk. But look at these little hops. Even these little hops, I see motion in these two twin tails. Looks really good. But see these big hops, though, again, watch how much motion I have. I'm not in 2 feet of water here, and you can see so much motion, even on that short of a fall. Of course, we're dragging through again. We caught another leaf, wonderful, but dragging it, no no big time motion unless I give it just that tiniest amount of hop. But if I drag it very fast, those tails are going to start doing their thing like you would expect a double tail grub to do. But, and guys, when I'm looking down, the screen is right there. You all, of course, are up there. But these little hops, ooh, I stopped it and it looked real good. See how that plastic stays up, but it's not so tall as the other. Now, the dark horse of this whole thing, a horny toad. Now, guys, most people would not throw a horny toad for this at all. But look at how much body it gives that jig. Great amount of body for that jig because this is big and wide and made to be planing on top of the water, of course. But you can see in there, the tails don't give a lot of motion at all. These are able to give motion, but they're exactly like the speed craw from earlier. That kind of claw will only give a lot of motion if there's a lot of movement. Watch this little small amounts of movement. That thing stays straight up and down. Very nice, really rigid. Like even here, sitting out in the open air, those don't have a ton of flop to them at all. And I'm wondering if we see another round of large jumps, I'll bet there's not a lot of motion on the back of these. Yeah, right here we got some more motion. Look, I bet there's not a ton of motion on those. Even in, yeah, there's a little bit, but not much. This is a really big time sleeper that I love to use because it gives me so much body. It's the kind of principle where somebody says, do you want a snack or do you want a steak? You know, if it's wintertime and it's rough for you to run things down, you want a steak. Look at that thing rolling across the bottom of the lake. Big looking bait. Even though same jig as all those others, but there's so much girth there to keep that skirt poofed out as you're dragging it along. It makes it look a million times better, in my opinion, for the winter time parts. Don't think that, oh, I'm ready to put away my horny toads until springtime or summertime. No, these are great jig trailers. They're like a really extra meaty craw trailer. I love them. But guys, I do want to move on to the baby brush hog. Now guys, this is kind of the weird one of the bunch. So this kind of, you know, I got all the appendages out too. This is the exact same one as all the rest of them have been. But, you know, I see a little motion from these tails, but it's just kind of a weird looking thing. I think this more gets a curiosity bite instead of an actual bite. And I'm hung on a leaf again, because this is a real place. This isn't just like a tank or something. But look at the tails. The tails are just kind of out there doing nothing for that drag, which you would expect. But watch when I do the little small jumps. See how those compare. Right here they come again. There's enough rigidity that it's trying to stand up, but these two tails want to fall down. These appendages here stay up. Some people even think this looks like a lizard, and I thought about using a lizard, but I didn't want to use something ridiculous on this. Now you can see on those big runs, you saw that when it fell, I actually had a little motion on those tails. But this, I believe, is better on its own rather than being a jig trailer. But I wanted to try it because some of you out there may also have wanted to try it. But you can see, again, on the drag, no motion whatsoever with anything. And should be some more small little bumps. We'll give them a look here for a moment. Look at that sun changing. Different looking water completely as it gets to those small jumps. And the jumps make these small appendages work a little bit, but not a ton. Not a whole bunch. And here's another round of big jumps. Look at those tails. Those tails move with that big jump, but they don't move hardly at all with the little jump. And with drag, these just kind of sit there and do nothing. They don't really help your presentation very good. I believe this is better fished on its own rather than being fished with a jig. This could be like a sneaky little thing for maybe a finesse jig, but this is a half-ounce PoorBoy jigs in mantis, and it's football head. So for a football head, maybe not the best choice. Maybe try something different. Maybe try a full-size brush hog, which I did not have available to me, or I would have used that instead. But look at these little jumps. Look at these little jumps. You can see my appendages are all moving. They're all crazy looking. But guys, let's move on to the Super Fluke. Now this is one of my favorite lures. If you all are longtime members of the channel, if you are longtime subscribers, you know the adage, when in doubt, fluke out. And guys, this fluke really did surprise me. Look at it as I'm dragging it along here in just a moment. Look at it. That just looks like a fish just slowly trolling the bottom, like a sucker fish. Slowly working the bottom, trying to get something to eat. And when I do the little hops, this tail does all kinds of stuff for me when I'm doing those little hops and even the big hops. And this has enough rigidity that it stands. Even out here in the wide open air, it stands. And look in the footage, you can see the tail standing straight up, and as soon as I do anything to that tail is just doing things. And I love it. Love it. And guys, just for behind the scenes thing, during this particular section of the video, I was visited by a game officer who was asking me if I was fishing, and I told him no, I was filming for YouTube. Look at these big jumps though. My plastic stays perfectly straight. It's like a struggling, dying fish. This is not my favorite color of fluke to try for this technique. I would prefer it be with that bloody shad and white, or some kind of white-ish color, shiner color. But look at it, even with the little jumps, the plastic stays rigid except the tail. The tail goes all over the place whenever you do anything with it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Cannot say enough good things about a fluke. Guys, I have used a fluke for everything. Look at these big jumps, and the fluke's making it not go straight back down. It's going one side or the other, which is really good. Erratic action you just don't find in other trailers for this exact same jig. They all straight up, straight back down. Not the same with this fluke. The fluke did whatever it wanted to, whenever it wanted to. Look at this drag. Look, it's just like a little sucker fish down there. When I stop, those strands splay out, but if I keep slow reeling it, that just looks like a big sucker fish at the bottom of the lake, just trolling along looking for something to eat. I loved it. I should have some small jumps coming up just to reiterate my point that the small jumps, even with them, watch the tail. Look how much action I'm getting out of that tail with just those minor little jumps. Now, if I put a lot of pause in between that would be fine for the time of year that we're in. Now, this is the junior fluke. I wanted to see if the size would make a difference. So junior fluke is a 3-inch, I believe. This is 4, maybe even 4.5. But guys, the fluke I thought might be a little bit short, but actually I like the look of it on this because the tail doesn't stick out quite so much, so it's got an even more like smaller presentation. If you're dealing with really finicky bass, smaller is always better. This would be a great trailer behind a finesse jig because this, as you can plainly see, look at these little jumps. Looks like a struggling bait fish or something that's going through the bottom, but you can still see that tail standing up there, just like with the big fluke. All right, guys, so we have seen all the trailers, we have seen all of the footage, and I've come up with some summations, some things that I do want to say. So as far as like this time of year, what bait would I want to put? What lure would I put on the back as a trailer? That's the word I just, for whatever reason, could not remember. I would definitely, this time of year, go with this horny toad. The horny toad has big body, added a lot of body to my jig that I really like. I like that there's a lot of body. Now, you can plainly see these here from the horny toad look exactly the same as these here from the Z-Craw, but look at the difference in body. Way bigger. This is almost half the size, maybe even less than half width-wise, as far as making your jig look larger, so it's a more appetizing meal to a hungry cold bass. It would rather come and eat one big meal, boom, and be done for many hours, if not for the whole day, rather than a small meal like what this kind of looks like. Now, there are days where it's like the bass don't really want a big lure. This would be a good choice for that. This is not a bad choice in any way. Neither is the chunk. The chunk this time of year is not a bad choice, but it is not the choice. Now, if you want a little movement in this kind of weather, the double-tailed grub is probably the way you want to go, because this will move no matter how cold the water is. You saw that even though I like this jig, I like this horny toad, those legs didn't hardly move at all, unless I gave it a large, exaggerated motion, which this time of year probably I would not do anyway. But the double-tailed grub, it had motion no matter how much I gave it. Really good if you want a little bit of action. Now, summertime, if I'm going to do summertime stuff, when in doubt, fluke out. And this Z-craw really impressed me as well because of the amount of, and I can't even tell if you all can tell, the amount of edge, shelf, whatever you want to call it, that makes it have a lot of exaggerated motion in cold water. In hot water, that exaggerated motion will be even more exaggerated. And a fluke, guys, I'm just a sucker for a fluke. You may not like the fluke for a jig trailer. I am a sucker for a fluke. A fluke will always be in my box, always be in my periphery if I'm bass fishing. But guys, that's plenty said about all the jig trailers. Guys, they all have situations where they work. None of them are bad lures by any means. But guys, I picked Zoom simply because it is the most widely available jig trailer out there. Guys, if you want me to try a different company, comments, put them down there. I'll try other companies. Now, I'm not going to try another company of jig because I am a PoorBoy Jigs guy. And if you want to support PoorBoy Jigs, link in the description. Go tell them that Saber Outdoors sent you. It will be a great thing for me when I hear back details of, yeah, guys, somebody saw your video and said, yeah, I want that life to be part of my life. And guys, you don't know how great that would make me feel. But guys, I'm babbling on, which I'm bad about. I'd just like to say thank you so very much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Please, 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 if you want to support the channel even more, go get some merch. Go get a membership. Memberships are $5. You can watch everything early. Again, thank you so very much for watching this particular video. We'll see you somewhere in the woods or on the water.